All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's Community of Practice uh, session. Just before we start, can everyone see the? Oops, sorry, that's not what I meant to do. Can everyone see the screen? You should be able to see the front screen, which is Community of Practice RIW Service Desk. If you can, just answer in the chat, and without any sort of further ado, I might make a start. Excellent. All right. Well, we might make a start then. Welcome to today's meeting. My name is Manny Giorgio. I'm the Service Delivery Manager from Metro Trains Australia. Today I'll be delivering today's session around Service Desk, what we do here at Service Desk, how we do it, what are some important topics that Service Desk are currently handling. The way that, whoops, sorry, let's try this again. It's not changing. All right. So what we're going to be discussing today, from a Service Desk perspective, these are the topics that we'll cover today. I won't read them out to you because you're more than capable of doing through. I'll just quickly go through some housekeeping. Today's session will be recorded. All participants, if you guys could just stay on mute at this, we won't permit any questions using audio. The way the session has been set up is to be interactive, so please feel free to ask questions. And the way that we'll ask questions is via the chat function. And what we've done differently today to some of the other ones is I've got Flynn and Imtiaz from Service Desk who are manning the chat function. So in real time, please feel free to ask any questions. Flynn and Imtiaz will endeavour to answer as many of those questions as they can. Just be careful when you're answering those questions because they are in the public space, that you do not include any personal details or any RIW numbers or anything along those lines there, because we don't want to sort of breach any privacy. If there's anything that from this perspective that you would like to discuss offline later on, please just make that clear in the chat. And what we'll do with Flynn and the team is we'll endeavour to get back to anyone who wants to handle anything offline later on. Okay. So just moving on. So who are Service Desk? Well, Service Desk is run under contract by a mob called Oracle CMS, who provide our customer service support function for the whole of the RIW program. The RIW Service Desk is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every single day of the year. The way in which we interact with Service Desk, the main way, is obviously via the 1300 number, the 1300 101 682 number, and via email using the info@riw.net.au link. Now, the Service Desk assists the RIW program in providing a single online competency management system for all Australian railway workers. Now, the way Service Desk is built up, there's two components in terms of the way Service Desk is staffed. The ones that you've probably interacted the most are during business hours from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Friday. They're our level 2 Service Desk consultants. So that's Flynn and her team. So Flynn is obviously the team leader. There are 7 senior consultants, all trained to handle all issues related to RIW. So things, verifications, medical uploads, service requests, email queries, escalations, whatever flavour of Service Desk request you have. Most of the time it's handled by our level 2 Service Desk consultants. Now, these level 2 Service Desk consultants handle quite a few calls and lots of emails on a daily basis, which we'll cover today. And they're the most proficient within RIW in terms of understanding how RIW works. The level of knowledge within the team is exceptional, and there's not too much that Flynn and her team aren't aware of. There is a secondary part to that team, and that's the RIW After Hours team. So these are our level 1 Service Desk consultants, and they're available from outside of those normal hours. So from 8:01 p.m. to 6:59 a.m. Monday to Friday, and all weekend. Now, They are trained to provide basic support and information regarding RIW functions, and they use a scripting methodology in order to action any requests. It's not just there for convenience; it's there because when high-risk activities are occurring, they occur all throughout the night and obviously over the weekends. We need to have the ability to act immediately on any safety critical information. So hence, the out-of-hours team are an integral part of that. Now, it's important to understand that there's very few calls related to RIW that come through out of these out-of-hours timeframes. And as a result, these level one consultants tend to handle far few these RIW inquiries far less frequently, and they take much longer to develop the same level or anywhere near the level of competence of our level two consultants. We do, however, use these level one consultants as a training ground and as in order to promote them into level two consultants to work day to day when we have people transitioning within the team. To ensure consistency, MTA and Oracle, we've got a scripting system that allows level one consultants to ask the right questions, and then we've provided them with workflows to action only basic and common requests. Okay, so let's go and have a look and see what that looks like. So apologies for the sort of huge volume of words on the screen, but I'll draw your attention more to what the level one service desk consultants can't do as compared to a level two consultant. So as an example, they can't change or create an account, remove suspensions, manually verify an ID, validate certification. They can't approve or reject competencies. They can't override a job role requirement. They can't approve a medical. They can't bypass a block authority or bypass compliance requirements, and they generally don't have the ability to repair system defects, move hardware around, or override project site requirements. What they've got in situations where someone requires, if there's an escalated situation or if there's an emergency or if there's something that needs to be actioned, is they've got an escalation process that involves them contacting someone, even if it is out of hours, and that will be escalated to internally here at MTA for actioning. So if there's an incident or something that requires that sort of consultation, there is the capacity there for a level one consultant to be able to escalate to MTA for something to be actioned in that out of hours space. And we have had quite a few incidents in the past where that has been escalated. As a general rule, what will happen if you're asking for something that's not necessarily an emergency, but you'd like done quickly, their process involves basically ensuring that the level two consultants that are starting at 7 a.m. will have been contacted by the level one consultants in order to action something on your behalf if you've contacted them during the evening or over a weekend. Okay, so that's it's important to understand the difference between the level two and the level one consultants. We do occasionally, some people get a little bit frustrated that our level one consultants don't know or don't have the level of knowledge of the level two consultants. But, just to give you an idea, level one consultants handled a huge volume of only 190 calls in the month of February. When you consider that we're handling well over 1,000 calls a week on our level two during our normal hours, you can see how difficult it would be for a level one consultant to build up the same level of knowledge as a level two consultant who handles the same requests multiple times in a day, let alone in a week. So just be cognizant when you're talking with a level one consultant. It may take them a little bit longer to get to where they need to go, to get you the information that you need or to get you the response that you require. But understand that there is an escalation process there. The escalation process will go through the team leader, which in this case will be Flynn, and they'll escalate either to myself or to someone internally at MTA for any sort of further actions that may be required. And that'll be done if it's a situation that requires an immediate escalation and immediate action. That'll be done at exactly that moment. Okay, so just so we can be clear about that. All righty. So what are the majority of the workload carried by our service desk consultants are obviously managing our competencies within RIW. So the ability to perform a role, support qualification, certification, or accreditation as recorded on a RIW profile is a competency. It determines who can and can't work and in what role and under what conditions they can do that. And it's a core compliance control in order to ensure safety across our network. To give you an idea of the sort of volumes of competencies that we receive at Service Desk, in the month of February, over 14,500 verifications came through our Service Desk. Each one of those verifications is assessed against our business rules and verification points, and also assessed in terms of its authenticity, consistency, and compliance. And that's a really big role that Service Desk play in ensuring that the information in RIW is as accurate as it possibly can be. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. Just to give you an idea of some of these volumes and how the volumes fluctuate throughout the year, you can see that the month of February was an incredibly busy month when it came to competencies. And in fact, the whole of 2025, if you look sort of from March 2025 all the way through to pretty much October 2025, our monthly competency verification volume were the highest we've ever seen at Service Desk. So if you look at the figures even the figures there from 2024, you can start to see some of those significant increases in the volume of competencies being handled by the RIW Service Desk, and it's a credit to Flynn and her team that they're able to handle all of those within the timeframes that they do. And in terms of how those handled, from a competency point of view, and also from when it comes to most actions taken by Service Desk, we do have service level agreements in place with the Service Desk to define the turnaround times. And we do this to reduce project delays caused by processing uncertainty and to ensure our workers are available when they are needed. So people have a little bit of certainty. It's to ensure certainty around how long things will take. We've also got a fast track process, and this is for urgent operational requirements. It still remains subject to our same business rules and oversight at every stage, but just done a little bit quicker, and it ensures that only those urgent operational requirements are handled within that time. So from a competency verification point of view, 100% of our valid requests are fulfilled within 2 business days, subject to having valid business rules in place. And for fast track verifications, the SLA is 100% of valid requests fulfilled within 8 business hours, once again subject to having valid business rules in place. Now, 2 business days there's a little bit of confusion sometimes with people, particularly when I speak with them around when the business day timeframe will begin. The business day timeframe will begin if you call on Monday at 1:00 in the afternoon. The first business day will be the following day, and the second business day will be the day after that. So the verification will need to be completed by end of day on Wednesday. So that's basically when we talk about 2 business days, or that's how that works. Just so we can because occasionally we get a little bit of confusion, and there's some frustration from people out there when things seem to be taking a little bit longer. Business rules are a big part of the day-to-day life of any service desk consultant. And the business rules exist to provide a minimum acceptance criteria for verification of competencies across our RIW program. These underlying business rules, they provide guidance to the service desk on how to handle these competencies. And as a result, we want to make sure that we get consistent outcomes. All applicants are treated fairly without any sort of prejudice or anything like that. And we want to reduce the reliance on individual judgments. That's why we have business rules. We want to have some hard and fast rules, so to ensure that there's less individual judgment required for the application of a business rule. Obviously, the RIW business rules page is your source of truth for these. Now, in terms of our business rules, our job role matrices define precisely what is required for each role at a national network level. Our accepted evidence standards ensure that the documentation is valid, consistent, and aligned nationally. And finally, our escalation pathways, and this is something I want to just pause here and take some time, is what exists for those complex or ambiguous cases. And that's to ensure that, rather than having things fall through the cracks because they're not, our current business rules aren't fit for a unique set of circumstances, we have an escalation process via Service Desk where we can escalate to MTA, who can take some of those queries outside of our organisation to some of our committees who can make decisions on those complex and ambiguous cases to ensure that we continue to have that same consistency and to ensure that we're not relying on individual judgment or any exceptions to get things done. So those escalation pathways are very important, and they're part of the way in which we ensure continuous improvement within our RIW system, because when a problem is identified by someone in industry, we've got a pathway to a defined authority to get it looked at and ensure that confusion is mitigated. Next big part of what Service Desk are responsible for is our rail health medical assessments. A critical part of rail and ensuring that our workers and all people who use the rail network are safe is our medical assessments, and they're there for workers to upload into the system and to successfully operate in many job roles across our various networks. Those medical assessments are incredibly important. The way in which we upload into the RIW system is via a service request, which is from our riw.net.au site. The medical is then verified and uploaded into the RIW cardholder's profile by Service Desk. The SLA for that is 3 standard business days for that medical upload to occur. Now, it's important to note here that our AHPs can also offer direct uploads of their completed medicals to our workers' profiles. And this is a really critical part, that workers are aware when they attend a medical practitioner. If that medical practitioner has the ability to directly upload their medical into their profile, and as I said, most AHPs through our new AHP system now do have the ability to directly upload it, please encourage them to ask that medical practitioner to action that direct upload. When we direct upload medicals directly into an AHP login to a worker's profile, it means that medical does not require any additional verification. It's valid immediately. When that worker walks out or that cardholder walks out of that AHP, that verification has been completed. There's no further verification required, and it means that cardholder is able to go to work in a much more rapid time frame, as opposed to having to submit a service request and having to wait up to 3 business days to get that service request actioned. Now, for the Service Desk, that medical processing is one of the most time-sensitive components of workforce readiness. There's usually quite a high level of angst and anxiety associated with those requests, because people need to get them uploaded onto their profiles as quickly as they can to ensure that they're able to get to work as soon as possible. Just to give you an idea of the sort of volumes that the Service Desk is handling, we're looking at nearly 2,200 medicals in the month of February. And it wasn't even a particularly busy month, to be honest with you. In terms of our Service Desk performance metrics, we need, as I said to you before, 100% of valid requests are fulfilled within 3 business days, and for fast tracks, that 100% of valid requests are fulfilled within 8 business hours. So that's sort of the time frame for those medicals. Again, if I can just emphasize the importance of asking your AHP to perform a direct upload on your cardholder's behalf. That'll ensure that they can get to work as soon as possible. It means that there's no further verification. And as you'll hear later on, direct uploads is a really critical way to ensure that the information we have in RIW is as accurate as it possibly can be without any sort of nefarious activities taking place, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. To give you guys an idea of some of the volumes, much like competencies, medicals for, throughout 2025 were about 20% higher than the year before, and it looks like February, we're sort of heading in that upward trajectory once again. So you can see that for a service desk perspective, the volumes continue to increase month on month and year on year. And the other thing that it's a credit to Flynn and her team that they have been able to manage our medical uploads within SLA successfully for as long as they have, with the sort of increase in volumes that we're seeing. Again, I know I sound like a broken record. One of the big ticket items for both our service desk consultants and for myself as a service delivery manager is to increase the adoption of direct uploads to ensure that we get those efficiency gains that we want across industry. Not just with medicals, but also with competencies, and I'll talk a little bit more towards that. Now, the reason, again, by having the direct uploads, it means that we got straight through processing. We got a higher percentage of submissions that require no manual intervention. It allows service desk to be available for more complex issues. It also means we get reduced turnaround times, lower rework rates, and from a modernity and digitization point of view, it reflects society's current move towards ensuring that these processes are automated as opposed to having to go through to a human being to be actioned. All right. So as I said, direct uploads, big ticket item for our service desk team in terms of promoting it both with MTA, with our AHPs, and with as many of the RTOs as they can possibly do. All right. Big ticket item for service desk at the moment is ID checks. Takes up a significant amount of service desk's time, and I'll give you some statistics in just a moment to reflect that. Now, our identity validation process is incredibly important and fundamental to ensuring trust within our RIW system. It means that the people that are on our system and the people that have our workers' cards are who they say they are. It ensures regulatory compliance. It reduces risk from credential misuse and aligns with our broader fraud prevention frameworks across MTA and across all participating organisations. In terms of our identification check breakdowns, we've conducted nearly, and this is since we've changed to our new identification check provider, which was in September of last year, nearly, just over 6,500 ID checks have been completed. Just under 3,500 of those were completed using the automated Green ID check. Now, what that means is, and I'll spend a little bit of time just focusing on that one, is normally when you enter your ID check credentials into the ID check system, it flows through it's a two-step process. First step is that we use a system called Scan ID that scans the ID and has a look at things like watermarks, has a look at things like security features which are on that ID, and ensures that it is what it's claiming to be. So if you've put in a driver's license, it'll ensure that the information that, yes, this is a driver's license. At this stage, there's no discussion about whether it's the person who it's purporting to be. That first step also compares the photograph on that document to a photograph from the RIW system. And this is another reason, and kind of a little aside from my point of view, is when handling these things, is that the quality of the photos that we have on our RIW profiles are vital to a successful ID check. If the photo we've got on and again, there's all sorts of variation in those photos, in our RIW photo. If you've got glasses on, if you've got a hat on, then there's no chance that that comparison of the photo from your driver's license against your ID, against your RIW photo will be successful, and it'll trigger a manual ID check. It'll require a manual ID check in order to be completed. The second part, in terms of the automated ID check process, is when the scanned information, so it'll scan your name, it'll scan all your dates of birth, card numbers, and all of that information. It's passed through to the Green ID portal, and that's when that information is assessed against the government database to ensure that it's valid. So if it's got my name on it and it's got my driver's license, the DVS, which is the government portal that compares these, will compare those two those two pieces of information. It'll say, yep, it's the correct card ID number. Yep, it's correct spelling of Manny's name, and all the information on it is correct, and it'll give you a positive outcome. Okay, so it's quite a drawn-out process, quite a complex process. In terms of ID checks, when any part of that automated process falls over, the only way to fix it is either to submit another automated ID check, or to send through a service request to Service Desk for a manual ID check to be formed. And this manual ID check will be when someone at Service Desk will receive the documentation that you've submitted for your ID check, will manually have a look at it on your behalf, will compare it to your photo in RIW, and be able to manually enter the information into the Green ID portal so that the government database can confirm the details. Now, why would we need to do this is the question that I get asked a lot of times. Before I go through the thing, I just want you, if the ID being used is not clear and legible, then it's impossible for the system to pick up any of the information on it, and it'll continuously fail. Right? If the photo that you're submitting for an ID check has glare, if it's taken in the dark, if the driver's license you're using has got details missing or scratched out, and so it's not clear and legible, the ID check will default to a manual ID check. Another big one, another reason why lots of ID checks don't pass the initial automation, is that the ID being used has either expired or been recently replaced. And this is particularly important for things like driver's licenses. So if you're using a driver's license, but a while ago you either lost it and then you found it again, or if the ID or the driver's license that you've given to your employer has been subsequently replaced, then when you try and do an ID check with that old driver's license, it'll get rejected by the government database, because they can pick up the fact, hey, there's been a new card issued. Every time there's a new card issued, a new driver's license particularly, it issues a new driver's license card number. So when you put the old card number in against your driver's license, that verification, that ID will be seen as not valid, and the system will ask you to submit the valid details. And if you have a look at the unsuccessful reasons in the table above you, you'll see that license number does not match is one there. Another really critical part about why ID checks don't fail is for people with multiple names, either two first names or hyphenated or multiple surnames, particularly some, our a lot of South American people I know have double surnames. I know, and in many other cultures, the same thing. Entering that information in as it appears on accurately is one of the most critical parts in a successful ID check. If you aren't able to do it, then it results in the ID check not passing in a manual ID check. Just from an advice point of view, anyone on a visa, the details captured on the visa document are the single sources of truth. So you will see that I've seen instances where the information on the visa document is actually different to the information on the passport. And as a result, an ID check has failed because it's coming back saying the documentation verification has failed because the information on the passport is different to the information on the visa. It's the information on the visa that is the single source of truth. And that would be the one that, so if you want to facilitate or if you want to accelerate the process, that'll be the information that you can forward to Service Desk via the service request to ensure that a manual ID check is completed. Now, as you can see, these are our manual ID check figures there. So you can see how many we're handling on a monthly basis for a little while now. Next part is something that's starting to unfortunately rear its ugly head, particularly this year, is our data integrity of the RIW system. We've had 6 major data integrity issues identified. Now, just to give you some insight of what we do when we're trying to verify a document and there's a discrepancy in information presented on the document, the first step is a back to source verification of that document. We then perform QA on documents that have been uploaded by that, as an example, that EA, as an example, to see if there's any other workers that have the same issues. If we do identify that there's discrepancies within that documentation, within the data on that documentation, there's a referral to Metro, MTA, myself and MTA, for further investigation. Again, depending on the situation, and every one of these is absolutely unique, the rectification can involve the appointment of an independent auditor, and that independent auditor conducts a deep dive into any organisations that have been where there's been a data integrity issue. They make recommendations, suggestions. We can request for systems to be changed, and finally, if we identify that there's fraudulent activity taking place, we can obviously refer any data integrity issues to the police. All right, so look, I'll just pause there. If there's any questions around that, please feel free to post it in the chat and we can have a response to that. I've been asked at the last minute to bring up our legacy data quality audit. I mean, this is something that has created a little bit of consternation within industry. Now, just to give you some background, there were over 560,000 competency records that we inherited from the previous system provider. Some evidence files linked to that data don't meet the established business rules as set by today's verification standards. So in certain cases, job roles, competencies were validated either against incorrect data or data that's no longer valid. Now, it was requested by industry, by ONSA, for MTA to conduct a review of this legacy data. It was initiated, and Service Desk have been working diligently on over nearly 51,000 pieces of this legacy data, and we're sort of nearly 95% of the way through. As you can see from that legacy data, the fail percentage is around about 10%. Now, whilst that sounds terrible, most of that fail percentage could be easily rectified with just the upload of some supporting documentation, because there may have been in that legacy data some information missing. But if any questions around that legacy data information, please feel free to touch base immediately with Service Desk. Flynn and her team are intimately aware of what's happening and what's required to fix it, and they'll move heaven and earth to make sure that any situations that do arise, and I know there have been some, are rectified as quickly as possible, to ensure that, if you need workers to get on site or anything along those lines, we can certainly action that quickly for you. So there really is, from Service Desk, a sense of urgency to get this updated for you. And that brings us to the end. So thank you very much, everybody, for listening to me talk about one of my favourite topics, which is Service Desk. Our Service Desk does a fabulous job. Their level of professionalism and their level of accuracy is something that we should all be proud of. I think Flynn has done a magnificent job with her team in terms of making sure that the quality standards of the team is something that is not just maintained, but we continue to see improvements on. So without any further ado, I'll stop talking right now. I mean, Flynn, myself, and MTAs will remain on the chat for the next sort of 5 or 10 minutes. So if you want to ask some further questions, please feel free to keep posting your questions, and we'll endeavour to get back to as many of you as we possibly can. So thank you very much, everybody, for attending today's meeting.